E. It started the moment my husband closed the door behind him. I should have known something was bound to happen, something I would carry with me, a secret that would change everything. "Don't wait up for me," he had said, grabbing his keys from the counter. "I might be late." And just like that, he was gone. The silence in the house felt heavy, almost suffocating. My nephew, Alex, was staying with us temporarily, a favor for my sister, who was navigating a messy divorce. He was polite, charming even, but there was something about him I couldn't quite place. Something that made me feel on edge. I decided to distract myself. A glass of wine and some soft music should do the trick. As I settled onto the couch, I heard footsteps behind me. "Auntie, you okay?" Alex's voice was smooth, almost too smooth for a young man of 24. He was tall, with a lean build and sharp features that carried a mix of boyish charm and undeniable confidence. "I'm fine," I replied, glancing up at him. "Just relaxing." He walked into the room, his hands tucked casually into his pockets. "You look like you've had a long day. Want some company?" I hesitated. "Sure. Why not?" Alex sat down beside me, a little too close, but I didn't move. He reached for the wine bottle on the table, pouring himself a glass without asking. "You don't mind, do you?" "Go ahead," I said, trying to keep my tone light. He took a sip and leaned back, his eyes studying me in a way that felt unsettling. "You're tense," he said, his voice low. "Is it my uncle? Work? Something else?" "Life," I said with a weak laugh, avoiding his gaze. "Life," he echoed, as if tasting the word. "Well, you should do something about that. You deserve to relax, Auntie." I rolled my eyes. "And what do you suggest? A massage?" "Actually, yes." His response was immediate, his tone serious. "I've picked up a few tricks. Let me show you." I laughed, shaking my head. "That's okay, Alex. I'll survive." But he was persistent. "Come on, what's the harm?" The wine was starting to hit, and I found myself considering it. "Fine," I said, turning my back to him. "Just my shoulders." His hands were warm, firm, but gentle. As he worked the tension out of my shoulders, I couldn't help but sigh. "You're good at this," I admitted. "Told you," he said with a chuckle. His voice close to my ear. "You've been carrying too much. You need to let go." His hands moved lower and I stiffened. "Alex." "Relax," he murmured. "Trust me." The room felt warmer, the air thicker. My heart was racing, and I hated myself for not stopping him. But something in his touch, in his voice, held me captive. "You're beautiful," he whispered. His lips so close I could feel his breath on my skin. I pulled away, standing up abruptly. "I think that's enough," I said, my voice shaking. Alex didn't argue. He simply leaned back, watching me with an unreadable expression. "If you say so, Auntie." I fled to my room, locking the door behind me. My reflection in the mirror showed flushed cheeks and wide eyes. What was I doing? What was happening? The days that followed were a blur of avoidance and stolen glances. Alex acted as if nothing had happened, but I couldn't shake the memory of his touch, his words. They played on a loop in my mind, haunting me. One evening, my husband was working late again. I found myself in the kitchen, aimlessly organizing the pantry. Alex walked in, his presence filling the room. "We need to talk," he said, his tone serious. "There's nothing to talk about," I replied, keeping my eyes on the cans of soup in front of me. "You don't believe that," he said, stepping closer. "I know you felt it too." I turned to face him, my heart pounding. "This isn't right, Alex. It has to stop." "Why?" he challenged, his eyes locking onto mine. "Because society says so? Because of him?" "Because it's wrong," I said, my voice trembling. "And because it would destroy everything." He took another step closer, his proximity overwhelming. Some things are worth destroying for. His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. I wanted to push him away, to run, but I couldn't move. My feet felt rooted to the floor, my body betraying me. "Alex," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Tell me to leave," he said, his voice soft but firm. "And I will. But if you don't, I'll take that as a sign." The room was silent except for the sound of my breathing. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. Before I could decide, the sound of my husband's car pulling into the driveway broke the spell. Alex stepped back, his expression unreadable. "Good night," he said quietly before walking out of the room. That night, as I lay in bed beside my husband, I couldn't stop thinking about Alex. His touch, his words, his gaze, they were seared into my mind, impossible to ignore. The tension between us only grew in the days that followed. Every glance, every accidental touch felt charged, like a spark waiting to ignite. One afternoon, while my husband was out, Alex cornered me in the hallway. "This isn't over," he said, his voice low and intense. "It has to be," I replied, though my resolve was weakening. He leaned in, his face inches from mine. "You don't believe that, and neither do I." I closed my eyes, willing myself to stay strong. But when I opened them, he was still there, his gaze burning into mine. "I can't do this," I said, more to myself than to him. "Then don't," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. The sound of the front door opening broke the moment once again. My husband's voice called out, and Alex stepped back, his expression unreadable. As the weeks turned into months, the tension between Alex and me became unbearable. I avoided him as much as possible. But the memory of what could have been lingered, a constant reminder of the line I had almost crossed. Eventually, Alex moved out, leaving a void in the house that I couldn't ignore. My husband never suspected a thing, and life went on as if nothing had happened. But late at night, when the house was quiet and the world was still, I found myself thinking about Alex, wondering what might have been. And though I knew I had made the right choice, a part of me would always wonder. Some secrets are meant to be kept. Some desires are meant to be buried. But that doesn't make them any less real.